Hi, welcome to Senior Strategies. My name is Amy Decker, and I am Director of Client Services with Senior Helpers.
I am Shane Silver. I'm a seniors real estate specialist, and I am a caregiver.
I think one of the highlights of our month is featuring our support group that we have at Allegro on Hagen Ranch in Boynton Beach. It's the third Thursday of every month. We've really come to know and love all that have attended.
We have a great group that attends our monthly support group. We have a core group of 5 or 6 that come every month. And then we always have some newbies that come visit us and join us. If you are local here to Boynton, Lake Worth, Delray, Boca, our support group is open to everyone, to any caregiver. And we do also offer respite care. So if you can't leave your loved one, you can bring them with you.
Right. We have a special room that Senior Helpers will actually care for your loved one, put on a movie and that type of thing. But I think we've been doing this now since May, and we've come to love so many of them. And we just recently honored one of our core attendees that his wife just passed away. And, we realized the impact that it made not only on him, but the group.
Not only the group, but when so much of your time and your life is all about being a caregiver, it's kind of like when you work, it becomes your identity, right? When you're working, no matter what your job is, that kind of becomes who you are.
Right.
And when you become a caregiver, it takes up so much of your time and so much of your life that all of a sudden, when your loved one passes,
you don't know what to do with yourself.
You don't know what to do, right? You have all this time.
You're lost.
You do feel, I think, kind of almost lost, right? And I was reminded of that the other day, that if you are a caregiver and you have lost your loved one, please keep going to the support group. Keep telling your story and sharing your journey, because you've lived it. And you know how helpful that is for other caregivers to hear from someone that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that what they're doing is right, and that they need to take care of themselves, and that they're not alone, and it's okay to feel frustrated.
It's a twofold bonus, because not only are you, as the person that lost your loved one, benefiting from those in the group, you're helping them as well. You're helping them to understand how to deal with this, and still giving them pointers of things that worked and didn't work.
Absolutely. I have been attending my own Alzheimer's caregiver support group for many, many, many years. And probably 4 or 5 years ago, definitely before COVID, absolutely before COVID, I met this wonderful woman in my support group who was caring for her husband with dementia. It was actually Lewy body. And he, at the time, was in a local memory care community, and she was his caregiver, and she would go there, even though he didn't live with her at home. She was that caregiver. He had lived with her at home as long as he could, and finally she had to make that decision to place him. But she was a big part of that community for a long time, for that memory care community for a very long time, and she would visit him every single day.
Aww.
So she was there, and she got to know the residents, and she got to know the families. And when he finally passed, and she all of a sudden had all of this time and nothing to do, the community asked her if she wanted a job in the community.
Oh.
And he passed during COVID, so it's now been a couple years past. And she, to this day, works the front desk, the reception desk at this community. And I was over there the other day, and it was so great to see her. And it was so great to see how wonderful she's doing and how she's processed everything. But now she's such a support for those moving their families in. She's been through it.
Right.
Has been through moving her husband in, caring for him while he's there, having to deal with his passing.
And she knows what she needed at the time.
Right.
So what an asset
And
she is to those.
I heard her, I talked with her, she gave amazing advice, and she just gave the best hugs too. And sometimes that's all the caregivers need, is a good hug, and to know that someone's been there.
Right.
So I want to remind you that if you're at the end of your caregiving journey, right, beginning or end, it doesn't matter, you have something to share, and you can be there and be a support for somebody else. And in being a support for somebody else, you're going to help yourself. You've talked about that before, and the energy, and I just wanted to remind everyone, just because your journey is different, whether you're beginning or end, you can still be there for everyone else.
And Senior Strategies is based on helping the caregiver, giving them tools and strategies for things that they need. And so we're excited because the guest that we're going to have on today is an app that they actually put together based on their own life experiences, losing a husband, losing a father, and things they needed at the time.
I feel like this month is all about technology,
That's
right?
right.
So in our last episode, we talked about an app that was all about safety for your loved ones. And this one is about supporting our caregiver. So I'm really excited to have Stefanie, our guest, with us today from the ConSoul app, because she is going to be talking about a little bit of her caregiving journey and how they came up with this concept and how it could help all of our caregivers out there. So please join us and we'll be right back.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver with Amy Decker and Shane Silver. Join us on each show where you're going to enjoy a lively conversation that's going to connect you to the tools and resources that you'll need to coordinate care for the seniors in your life. We are so happy that you joined us.
Welcome to our show, Stefanie. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for being with us today.
I'm excited today too, as well.
Good.
And thanks
So
for having
we're happy
me.
to have you. I think what you have to talk about is so interesting. The name of your company is ConSoul, and it's an app, and
Yes.
it's based on your experience yourself, as well as others, of dealing with either elderly or not elderly, but illnesses, and how a caregiver can really get burned out dealing with somebody that is needing a lot of care. And it's Cindy, Stefanie, and Fabio all started the group based on their own life experiences. And it's a wonderful app. It's a great thing to use when you're a caregiver. And so tell us a little bit more about who you are, why you started it, and the benefits.
How it all came to be.
Yeah. So it started off with Cindy and I. We both had our own caregiving stories. Cindy, unfortunately, with her father was diagnosed with cancer, and it was really quickly from when he was diagnosed to when he passed away. So she was thrown into it just like this. And then with me, it was my husband. We've been married for 6 months at the time. And he was diagnosed, but we've been together for so long before that, but he was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and he was a healthy guy. He just finished running his half marathon, and he was just complaining with stomach pains one day. And then after numerous doctor visits and hospital stays, it ended up being stage 4 colon cancer.
Oh my God.
And just like that, I went from wanting to start a family to like caring for essentially my dying husband. And, it's one of those things where it just happened so quickly, right? Where you're just thrusted into it. And so
like the rug was ripped right out from underneath you.
Probably the last thing you were ever expecting to hear.
Yeah. And so I didn't consider myself a caregiver until I was a caregiver, until it's hard to say, like and I think I was like, thinking back now, I feel like I was a caregiver during those times where he was in the hospital, but I never really considered that part of it, because you're just thrusted into it, and you're trying to your fight or flight mode is coming on, and you're trying to figure out how everything works.
And you still thought of yourself as a wife and his friend. So in your mind, you're doing this because you're his wife and his friend. But the caregiver part of it really was the biggest.
But a big thing, like she said, you're kind of thrust into this, and sometimes, 90% that's how it happens, right? You go from 1 minute, everything's fine, to the next minute, boom, you're a caregiver. And just like she said, I didn't think of myself as a caregiver. I just did what had to come next, right? I just did what I had to do so that I could take care of him, or I could survive and he could survive. You just do whatever comes next. You don't consciously say to yourself, oh, now I'm a caregiver. Right. It just,
start doing it. Right.
I think the doctors will probably say something like, your caregiver. I guess your caregiver is your wife, of course, right? It's like assumed, I guess, right, when that happens. And I guess to your point too, like, no matter what caregiving situation you're in, we're never really taught to be caregivers, right? Like, we kind of assume one day we'll have to take care of our parents. We kind of assume one day we're going to have to take care of somebody like our kids, but you're never expecting when that day is going to come. And like, if we're going to wait also for when that day is going to come, it may also be too late as well too, right? So it's an interesting facet of life, because we're all going to become caregivers one day, but it's just, we're not prepared for it either, right? Because we're taught math. we're taught
And
geography, but we're not taught that like, oh, these are some skills that we're going to have to like take care of our elderly
Right,
parents one day.
compassion, empathy.
Yeah.
And not just that, but like now you're their advocate, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're dealing with the hospital, you might be dealing with, in our case, Medicare or Medicaid, like
Mhm.
you're dealing with all of these new
Yeah,
avenues or industries that you probably never knew about
but you even
before.
wanted to learn it.
Or that you wanted to know, or some that you never even knew existed, you
Mhm.
know? So thrown in.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that like you just, and you get immune to things very quickly. So like changing bandages and like making sure that the hydration and paying attention to nuances, right? Like paying attention to a person's mood, right? Where you're like,
Right.
oh, like he seems extra off today. I wonder if it's like pain. Like you're starting to become more attuned to the person's nonverbal behaviors.
Body
Mhm.
language.
Mhm.
Body language was really important during that time too. And I think another aspect of caregiving that no one really talks about is the other hats we have to wear as caregivers. Like we
Right.
have to act as like a therapist sometimes, and we have to act as a counselor because they need support. And like it's so easy to, especially for us women, it's so easy for us to say, okay, we'll eat later. We'll take a rest. We'll take a nap maybe later if we have time, right? We're so easy to put ourselves second, where in caregiving, we need to learn that, oh, you have to have a physical stop to say, no, I need to sit down. I need to eat. I need to put myself first during this time, but I would be a better caregiver in the future, right? And
Right.
I think that's the trouble that we have as caregivers, because we're always putting someone else 1st all the time.
Right. And I also think, and you can probably speak to this, I know we hear it in our support group a lot. There's a little bit, or sometimes a lot, of anger
Mhm.
or frustration
Yeah.
because they, when we deal with seniors, they've saved their whole life and they're looking forward to their retirement. And now they thought they'd be traveling the world with their loved one, their wife or their husband.
Yeah.
And now they're caring for them and they can't walk, they can't travel or whatever. And they have this almost like grieving for the life they thought they were going to have.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you experienced a lot of that, being that, like you said, you were just married and you thought you were going to be planning a family. And now you almost have to
Change goals,
grieve
change
that,
gears. Yeah.
right, what that path, and say, okay, and like again, there was no, okay, now I'm a caregiver. It just happened, right? You didn't have a chance to kind of even process it.
And a lot of our support group men, mostly, all say they're so angry because in their mind, this isn't what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for it. I didn't sign up to do this. I wanted to enjoy my life. I don't want to dip in my long-term care policy now to care for my wife. I want to be traveling. So
Right.
for you, only being married 6 months, of course.
Yeah, so there's two things that I thought about during this time. It's funny that you bring this up, because I actually did have a long thought about this, because I did have a lot of friends and family during that time that were starting families, right? And they were all getting pregnant and they were all like talking about their new journeys. And a part of me like wanted to be jealous, of course, it's
Of
natural.
course.
But I was really happy with them, because I think just knowing what I've learned from this whole experience is that if it's not now, it's going to be later, right? So my advice was like to my friends, like, enjoy this now. Like, and I didn't want to be like a dark cloud to be like, oh, you never know when it's going to end, but just enjoy the moment, because that's
Right.
what it's about, right?
Mhm.
And like another facet that really helped me during this time was I'm allowed to have dual emotions. I'm allowed to, like you said, I'm allowed to be angry and grieve, but I'm also allowed to be like honored that I get to spend this last moment with my husband, right? I'm allowed to be happy because, he had good chemo results, but I can also be
Right.
very sad that he has to go through this, right? And I think
Right.
a lot of the times we think emotions are black and white, but they're not. They're very much dual emotions. And I think that's why we're so complex as human beings, because we have all these dual emotions and we don't know what is right, it's what's wrong. And sometimes that's okay. There doesn't have to be a right or wrong. There could be two things that can coexist at the same time.
I love that.
I love that. I do like
That's
that.
great.
So tell us a little more about
Yes.
the app and how it came to be.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we digress. I can talk about this forever. So unfortunately, Jordan passed away, and Cindy, she had a similar story, like I said earlier. And we both kind of came together and we were like, there has to be some kind of meaning out of all this, right? There has to be meaning of the people that we lost and our experiences that we've learned through our whole time as being caregivers, and seeing our loved ones suffer. And I think being a caregiver, that's the hardest part, is to see someone suffer and you can't do anything about it. The only thing you can do is sit there and hold their hand and do what you can do to make them comfortable, but you can't
fix it.
You can't fix it, right? And we realize that like everybody in their life is going to be a caregiver at one point or another. At least most people in their life will be, right? And so we were like, but there's nothing out there that's like a wellness app for caregivers. And my experience as being a caregiver was that I wanted help. I just didn't know how to ask for help because I was too busy with trying to be all these different hats, right? Being a therapist for my husband, being a caregiver, being the housemaid because it's during COVID. Like there's just so many things that I had to do. And then if someone were to ask me, like, can I help you with anything? And I just wanted to say, like, I don't know what I want, because it's just when you see someone in the eye and you admit that you need help, it's just the kindness of some people will make me very vulnerable. And so having an app and having something in between where it's an easier ask for caregivers to ask for help. And it's an easier way to not be so inundated with having to update your family, friends. And it's all one-stop shop for wellness caregivers, because we found out, and also we found out with talking with caregivers and validating, that the reasons why caregivers are so burnt out is because like they don't have enough help, and it's also they don't have enough information in terms of like centralized information of the caregiving aspects that they're specifically caring for, and they don't know how to ask for help. And so we created ConSoul based off this sole notion that we think we can help relieve some caregiver burnout and help them feel less isolated by having this wellness platform for them.
Because some feel guilty asking for help,
yes,
or they know they need help, but your daily routine has become so robotic.
Yes.
That if they said, well, let me take something off your plate today, you couldn't even probably think about what that was, because your day just is robotic. This is what you have to do.
Yep.
And you wouldn't even know what to ask them to do.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
tell us how the app helps that.
So yeah, so we have something called the shop registry for caregivers. So there's a whole bunch of items for caregivers that they might need for around the house. So for example, a cleaning lady, because the caregiver needs some time, gives them time back for their from cleaning their homes. We also have like any registry for like if they need to have blankets or they need to have things for their appointments. They can choose, they can customize what they want in the shop. So if somebody says, well, how can I help you? Be like, you know what? You can help me by looking on the list on our app, and you'll be able to see what items you can help me purchase or what items you can help me with. So that way it'll go straight to them. They don't have to look anybody in the eye. They just have to put the list in what they need. And then
it's like a wedding registry kind of thing.
Essentially,
they can pull it up and then look to see, oh, that's
I need a blanket. I need a blanket
Yes.
when I have my chemo treatment.
Or I need Wednesday somebody to come by so that I can go to the store and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And we also offer a communication channel, so that way you could put all your support. So we call it your care network. So you create who your care network is, and so in that care network, there's going to be a wall, so you can see how like you can give updates on the person, or you can give updates to yourself, and that way the caregiver is not messaging 5 different people to make sure that they're giving updates. There's also going to be wellness prompts, and the wellness prompts will help with teaching caregivers what they need in their caregiving journey. So if it's, for example, if they need some government credits to help them because they have to take time off of work, it'll have information that they might need to know through their caregiving journey that they haven't thought about. Or there might be some lessons for them to know what do they need in terms of their mental health, what's important for them, like reminders constantly and resources to help them through their specific caregiving journey.
That's wonderful. I know they have like bits and pieces of things. Like we have something here called Caring Bridge.
Yeah.
If somebody's going through a terminal illness or they're sick or whatever, you can be invited onto Caring Bridge. And then it'll show a note every day. Here's my update. Here's how I'm feeling. Here's how my son is. So you've taken all those little bits and pieces and put it in one app.
I love the list, kind of like the registry, because it doesn't have to be an item. It could be, can you sit, in our case, sometimes our caregivers need respite. So it might be, can you sit with my husband for an hour?
So I can
so
go to a
to
support group.
support group?
Right.
Or can you, you know, we have Wednesday's a crazy day. We have 2 doctor's appointments. Can you have dinner delivered? Or can you have someone, you know, I like that the fact that it's, yes, there are things and items that we need, but sometimes it's more the time.
Right.
Right.
Most
Time.
important.
Yeah, I agree with you. Time is the most important thing that we can never get back, right?
So you'll get the app. And so what you do is then tell your friends, this is how you get into my app, and invite them.
Yeah, you can invite them through the app. You'll be able to send invitations to them, and then they'll be able to help join. They'll be able to join, and they'll also have access to the resource groups areas as well, where there'll be information on for them to help how to talk to caregivers too, right? So I've heard from my experience, a lot of my friends were telling me, oh, I wanted to reach out to you more. I just didn't know what to say, right? So we're offering advice for the care circle and how to approach the caregiver as well too, and not, in my experience and what I tell people when they ask me, like, should I reach out to this person because they're caring for their mother? I'm like, yes. Like, it's better to be annoying than to not be annoying, right? Like, people are always going to remember that.
We've heard it in our support group too. Some people
don't know what to say.
Some people, you know, a lot of people are like, our friends stopped reaching out and hear from our friends.
And they're angry.
They're angry. But I think a lot of it is people just don't know what to say.
They don't know. And we try telling them that, and they're like, well, at least they could just call. But for some people, they feel uncomfortable. And what if I say the wrong thing? And now I've made their day worse. Or what if he tells me something and I don't know how to respond to it? So we have a couple of gentlemen in our group that are just really angry with their friends. So that is great. How do you offer the counseling through the app?
So it's right now, it's just resources and content building, but it's something that we're always developing. And hopefully we would get different types of partnerships that we're actually working on. So we are looking for partnerships in that sphere of counseling. And we're also looking for partnerships in like financial planning. And so that way they can add different types of modalities to the caregivers, things that they should think about in one spot.
And it's probably constantly changing and growing, because then you find other things that caregivers need that you didn't even think about, that you can add that to it. That's wonderful.
I think it's amazing.
How long have you been doing this?
We started our low code. So we created this with like a low code, no code app. So it's literally like Build-A-Bear, like you just put the missing blocks together. So we started in 2023, where we kind of launched our like MVP. And then we got a government grant from Canada, a Canadian government grant. It's a federal grant for $100,000 to help build our application. So we're building it alongside a university and college here, and they're helping us build it out from beginning to end. And we're hoping to launch it of March in 2024, which is very soon.
Real soon.
Yeah. So we're hoping to have it out, and we have a couple of letters of intent for employers. We know that this is going to be an employer issue and also a women's issue, because like currently there's like a new stat that came out by the World Economic Forum. It's 606 women right now are currently leaving the workforce because of caregiving duties, and that's worldwide, right? So we know that employers need to be there in my experience, we all need to have employers that support caregivers, right? Because it's important.
Absolutely. And we actually had a whole show about that, you know, they're happy to give you maternity leave. They're happy to give a woman maternity leave. They're happy, but what about a man? Or what about now you're caring for your spouse? Or what about you're caring for
your mother?
You know, they don't even think about, you know, being proactive and saying, well, go ahead and we're going to give you some time off for that. But that is something really on the horizon right now that a lot of companies are talking about.
Yeah, and to give a little bit more resources towards them, right? To give a little bit more things that they could use and help make their day-to-day easier when it comes to like caring for their loved one, right?
So if somebody wanted to just start looking at what you have to offer, give us your contact information or your website. How would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so we have our website, which is consoulapp.com. And we also have our LinkedIn, which is ConSoul, and also our social media is also ConSoul app.
Good. And they
Yeah.
can also go on our Senior Strategies Facebook page
Yes.
too, if they've got any
Oh,
questions, and
great.
we'll watch for that.
Oh,
So if
great.
anybody has questions or
post
wants to
that.
know how to reach out
Yeah.
to you, we'll be
Yeah.
sure to post all that information.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, our mission is really to make caregiving a community thing and not just an isolated thing.
Right.
Just because like we think that caregivers, it's such an invisible activity that we do because we have to do it.
Mhm.
And so we believe with ConSoul, we're able to make this a community event that
Right.
it will be something that people can share with each other, right? And it will help with
Mhm.
everything. Because just like in life, we're going to have to grieve, we're going to have to take care of
Yeah.
somebody, but like life is so much better if we can do it together, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I
Just
love
like what
that.
you guys are doing.
I love that. And I think it's just beautiful because it's come from your heart. And
Yeah.
it's come from your own experience. And that's
Yeah.
when you usually find the most successful things, when it comes from somebody's heart, because they had to live it. So they know exactly, what people are looking for.
Yeah.
What you could have used, what you
Right.
needed, what people weren't able to give you.
Mhm.
So the app is not available today, or it will be available today?
It'll be available. It depends when the podcast is coming out. It will be available in of March, at probably around the end of March of 2024. We're still
Perfect.
working with our developers, but we should have something out soon.
Well, we will definitely keep our eye on that, and we will definitely post the website information on our YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, so
Mhm.
everyone can find you. Thank
Yes,
you
thank you so
so
much.
much, Stefanie, for being here
Thank
with us
you.
today. We really appreciate it, and thank you for all you are doing for our caregiving community. You know, you talked
Anytime.
about it could be lonely and isolating, and that's something we talk
Mhm.
about a lot. So
Yeah.
anyway, we can show our caregivers that there are others out there that know what they're going through. It's a big plus for us. So thank you.
Anytime.
And a bravo to the journey that you had to live in order
Thank
to
you.
make this a successful thing. So at the time, you probably didn't think anything would come of it good, but you are going to be helping so many people and so many caregivers that bravo to you.
Yeah, and that's the hope. And like I really hope that we can do a good reach out, and we hope that we can help caregivers. And I just know how isolating it is, because it's just something that we don't ever think we need to do, but we do. We all need to be there for each other.
Mhm. That's
We're all
right.
going to be there at some
Yeah,
point.
right.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Stefanie. Thank
Thank
you
you so
again so
much.
much for joining us today. We'll see you
Thank you. That's
Thank
it.
you for joining us today on Senior Strategies. We hope that you found the tools and the strategies that we offered you beneficial for your journey as a caregiver. We want you to leave today feeling empowered and supported.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for upcoming shows and events. For more information, to schedule a consultation, or to join a support group, please contact us at 561-800-6654.
And remember the strategies
And tools you can use
to make your journey easier.